Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Assembly Judiciary. I'd like to welcome those here in Carson City, as well as anyone in Las Vegas or anyone watching online through the Legislature's YouTube channel or through Nellis. With that, Secretary, please take the roll.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Gallant.
Present.
Assemblyman Gray. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. Assemblywoman Marzola. Assemblywoman Mosca. Assemblywoman Newby. Assemblyman Ortlicker. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblyman Urick. Chair Miller.
Here, and it appears all members are present. Just a reminder, even as I just heard my own laptop going off from yesterday's Zoom, please make sure your laptops, your cell phones, everything like that, all the volume is turned down. We will have a public comment at the end of today's meeting. Just a reminder that when you are submitting any exhibits or documents for presentations going forward, we ask that it's free of any logos or anything like that, but also make sure that it's in by 12 p.m. the day prior. Today we will have a number of things on the agenda, and we're actually taking them out of order. So we will begin with our bill hearing on AB 122. And then we will have a BDR introduction and then 2 presentations. So I'm going to give our presenters a moment to approach and get settled. Today we have Assembly Bill 122. This measure revises provisions relating to tobacco, and it will be presented by one of the bill sponsors, Assemblyman Hafen and Misty Grimer. So we'll give you a few moments, and then please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. It's an honor to be here today, and I have to thank the Speaker, even though he decided not to show up this morning and leave me hanging here to just present all by myself. But luckily, I have Ms. Grimer here that can answer all the technical questions for us if we need. So most of you know, probably half of the things that we do in this building every session is fix the things that we messed up last session, and that's exactly why we're here today. We didn't necessarily mess things up, but when we went to implement Assembly Bill 360 from the last legislative session, we realized that the way the language was written, that it was very broad-based, and it included any kind of transaction of tobacco, quote-unquote, sales, even if it is somebody sitting at a blackjack table getting a comp cigarette. That was not the intention of the bill. The gaming licenses, the control, and the Gaming Control Board, slightly more important than providing cigarettes to minors, and therefore was never intended. The intent of Assembly Bill 360 was to clamp down on underage minors under the age of now 21, purchasing tobacco at convenience stores, grocery stores, and tobacco stores. And the reason that came about is there's federal money. It's the SAPTA funds, somewhere in the realm of $10 million, that Nevada is at risk every single year of losing because we have such a high youth smoking percentage. And so AB 360 was enacted to try to clamp down on that. It went into effect January 1st of this year, and then that's when we realized we had some technical issues that we wanted to clarify this legislative session, and the Speaker was gracious enough to present that bill, carry that bill forward with myself. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Grimer to talk about more of the technical sections. It's just one little section in the bill, so I'll turn it on over. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Miller and committee members, for allowing me to speak to you about AB 122. For the record, Misty Grimmer with the Ferraro Group representing the Nevada Resort Association. AB 122 is before you due to some of the nuances of performing the electronic age verification for tobacco transactions on the gaming floor of our casinos. If I can provide a bit of context, our properties are fully aware that they hold a privileged license in being unrestricted gaming licensees. That license comes with a great deal of responsibility to the community to ensure that only people who are legally allowed to participate in the array of activities at our resorts are doing so. Our licenses also come with stringent oversight by the Gaming Control Board, especially related to age restriction on the gaming floor. Furthermore, the GCB is also enabled to hold us doubly accountable for every law that applies to us as Nevada businesses. As you might expect, preserving the integrity of our gaming license is unquestionably priority number one for every one of our members. It is because of the highly restricted and regulated environment that's present on the gaming floor and the ways that tobacco transactions take place in the gaming areas that we are requesting those areas to be excluded from the requirements of NRS 370-521. As I mentioned, the gaming floor is already restricted to prohibit even the presence of individuals under the age of 21 because of the gambling restrictions. I myself recently experienced how stringently we impose this when I had friends in town and we were asked to move away from the machines because one of our parties was underage. It took security about 2 minutes to find us and tell us to move on. From a practical standpoint, on the gaming floor, our patrons move about constantly from machine to machine and table to table, as do our cocktail servers, who are the ones who would be the most likely to provide the patrons with the tobacco products. Mind you, these are patrons that we already have eyes on constantly to be sure they are of age to gamble in the first place. Furthermore, the types of tobacco transactions are different on the gaming floor. In many cases, the cigarettes are provided as a comp, similar to cocktails. So it doesn't fit the traditional scenario of going up to a cashier and making a purchase. Additionally, our gaming patrons quite often apply for the rewards cards, which makes the process of gaming easier and also earns them rewards as they go along. These rewards can be redeemed for tobacco products. However, in order for a patron to have a reward card, their ability to gamble, meaning their age, has already been verified. I want to clarify that AB 122 is only requesting an exclusion for the gaming areas of the resort casino. The provisions of NRS 370-521 would still apply to the remainder of the property, such as gift shops and retail outlets. We would like to propose a small amendment that I believe the committee has in front of them. This amendment would limit the exclusion to just face-to-face transactions. This is to ensure that tobacco vending machines would still be required to have a form of age verification for purchase. Most of the machines today do have the tech attached to them that verify somebody's age before they can receive the product from the machine, but not necessarily all of them. So this amendment assures that vending machines are not excluded from the requirements of this chapter. We appreciate your consideration of the bill, and I'm happy to answer questions.
And Madam Chair, if I may, Gregory Hafen, for the record. I do want to say that this amendment has come from the Attorney General's office. We've been working with Attorney General Ford and his staff for the last 3 years now to try to address this problem of the loss of SAPTA funding and the underage smoking. And so I have to thank the Attorney General's office, and this is a friendly amendment coming from him. We are absolutely in support of that, and there are copies on the back table. And we are here for any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Madam Chair, if I may, one more thing I wanted to point out. Misty Grimmer, for the record. Since the bill has been enacted, some of the response from the public has been, are you collecting my data when an ID gets scanned? And we want to make it clear that there is no requirement in the law that the data be held or collected. And speaking for my members, and I think also the other businesses that are involved in doing the age verification, nobody wants that data. We don't want to keep it. We don't want to hold it. So just to put that on the record for the sake of the public.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the bill presentation. With that, we do have a question from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being with us this morning. So as a high school teacher, I see very high tobacco use with our youth, and that's a deep concern of mine. I have students that are 17 and 18, and they look 20 or 30 or much older than they actually are. And I've also been in casinos where, you know, the difference between the gaming floor and not the gaming floor is maybe a color change in the carpet, right? There's not a line, there's not a rope, there's nothing there to separate that. And so my question is, with these students, these young people that look older, and are not having to verify before they go onto the gaming floor, how are you ensuring that you're not giving cigarettes to youths that shouldn't have them?
And Madam Chair, through you to the Assemblywoman, good, thank you. I appreciate the question. In our conversations with the Attorney General's office and other stakeholders, one of the issues just at large is enforcement. The Attorney General's office is limited on the number of inspectors and enforcers. And so this change here is saying, you know what, we have limited resources. We want to target our resources in the place where they're obtaining the tobacco the most, and which is not at the casino floors. And we're going to say that, you know what, we're going to let the Gaming Control Board handle the gaming floors because they have more staff, more enforcement, and frankly, they're at risk of losing their license if these individuals are on the gaming floor obtaining tobacco products and gambling. And so it's kind of a two-facet that we want to prevent the youth smoking because we want to take our enforcement that we currently have, which is very limited, and target the areas of most transactions with the youth and say, Gaming Control Board, you guys have enough enforcement. You know, this is now into your realm. Please make sure that you are overseeing this. And so I really do appreciate you bringing that forward.
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Misty Grimmer. For the record, I guess I would just add to that, similar to what I said in my comments, that the preservation of our gaming license is invaluable, and so we've already had those processes and those checks and those checks in place, and the eyes on the patrons and the security systems in place for a long time in order to ensure that people that are under 21 are not on the gaming floor. I know that the bill, the statute references basically checking the identification of anyone who looks like they're under 40. I think for most of our properties, that's also been our rule for the gaming floor for a long time. So the people that you mentioned, that, you know, somebody who might be 20 years old, but they look like they're 25, you know, or they look, you know, and the way we approach it, if they look like they're under 40, we're going to come around and say, are you sure you're supposed to be here?
Thank you for the question. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Hardy.
Thank you, Chair, and it's good to see you both. And this was a bill I worked on with Assemblyman Hafen last time, and as he stated, when it was going to be put into practice, there were some issues that came up, and so this bill is a fix for that. Specifically, verifying the IDs. The people working the floor don't have access. They don't have a point of sale system or a way to check the ID on the floor. You know, it became an issue of, well, we don't want to take the ID from the person, and so how can we make this fix? So is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Gregory Hafen, for the record, yes.
Thank you for your question. Next question is from Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reading this bill, one of the things that popped into my head is the way that it's worded. It seems very much focused on the gaming areas in the resort corridor, but what about the taverns and other maybe restricted or other gaming areas where you're not supposed to be under 21 to be in there? Is this part of it, or is that separate?
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Considine. Misty Grimmer, for the record. It's my understanding that the reference that we cited, NRS 463-350, would apply to the gaming areas of all unrestricted licensees. I can go back and absolutely make sure of that, or perhaps legal can take a look at it. But so our focus, of course, is the members of the Resort Association. I think the taverns may be in a different association. I'm not totally certain, but I believe it's all of the gaming areas where gaming takes place with an unrestricted license.
And we have a question from Assemblyman Ornlicker.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So following up on Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch, so your answer was, it's not that we won't have enforcement, it's from the control gaming board rather than the Attorney General. And I know the Attorney General does audits to see if people are really complying. What kind of audits do you all do? Does the Gaming Control Board do to make sure there's this compliance with the 21 age on the floor rule? Do they send undercover sting kind of operations to see if they're really policing properly?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Orentlichter. Mr. Grimmer, for the record, I'll have to get back to you with specific statutes, but I know that they do come into the properties and verify that we are not allowing underage people on the gaming floor. And as the Assemblyman also testified to, the Attorney General's office have their own operations where they come in and they make sure that for the sake of the smoking requirements, they also are making sure that people are not in the unrestricted areas and in the restricted areas. We also are working very closely with the Attorney General's office on the bill that they're going to bring before you guys, AB 53, because we 100% support them in being able to increase the enforcement of the underage tobacco laws and slap the hands of the individuals who think, well, I'm just going to pay that fine because it's no big deal.
We do have some clarification from legal as well.
Thank you, Chair. The way this is phrased, it refers to any premises where any licensed game is operated or conducted. It's not necessarily limited to a non-restricted or restricted, to non-restricted licensees, although it does say in a casino, so that may be something that needs to be clarified, because it doesn't seem to be limited to just non-restricted licensees.
Please, do you have a response, Ms. Grimmer, or a question?
Misty Grimmer, for the record, I appreciate the clarification. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the brilliant one with the statutes, so. If we do need to limit it, then we can clarify that it's only to unrestricted licensees.
I was just going to add, Gregory Hafen for the record, and we're happy to sit down with the Attorney General's office further to get that clarification and ensure that we're not back next session clarifying another definition. So thank you.
We appreciate that. We have a final question from Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. Good to see you both. And actually, my question just came up in the course of the exchange we just had with legal and talking about non-restricted and restricted. My understanding, and maybe that has to be clarified in language a little better, is that the reason this applies to the non-restricted, because there's areas of the property that under 21 people are allowed, where with taverns, they're not even allowed to go in the building. Am I correct on taverns that if you're not 21 or older, you can't even enter a tavern, so the smoking issue wouldn't apply as an issue for under 21?
Misty Grimmer, for the record, it is not our intention for the exemption from the electronic verification to extend anywhere beyond the floor of a casino property. I think once you get into into that arena where it's anywhere that's prohibited for people that are under 21, then the exemption gets quite large, and we're not advocating for that. I think for most, and I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but I think for most unrestricted licensees, it does happen in the context of a bar or where you're sitting at a table, you're ordering your drinks from the bartender. So then the ease of being able to do the age verification is a bit easier than, like I mentioned, with the casino floor, where the patrons are constantly moving around and the cocktail waitresses are servers, pardon me, the cocktail servers are constantly moving around. And so those are some of the dynamics that make it a little different, as opposed to sitting at a sports, a sports pub and gambling at the counter.
Okay, thank you. With that, not seeing any other questions, we will move on to testimony. So anyone that's here in Carson City that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 122, we ask that you keep your testimonies to 2 minutes. We will start here in Carson City first.
Chair Miller, members of the committee, Peter Kruger representing Fueling Nevada, which is the convenience store trade group here in the state, and we're absolutely in support of the bill as written. And it's our interpretation this would apply a casino floor being restricted gaming only. Many, as you know, convenience stores and other have, I'm sorry, I misspoke, unrestricted licenses. Many of our members enjoy a restricted license with slot machines and things in convenience stores. So we support the bill as written and the amendment. And if legal and the sponsor think that additional language to clarify the restricted portion or the unrestricted portion is necessary. I wanted to address very quickly and remind committee members, Nevada does not have a law that prohibits underage youth, now it's 21, to buy, possess, or use tobacco products. This needs to be changed, and we've been before this body for years advocating for that, and we would hope that as we move forward in other legislation on tobacco issues that it in fact, and the usual argument is, well, we don't want to criminalize the behavior. Alcohol is different, maybe, but we've even agreed a status offense would be an appropriate way to go on tobacco issues. Another thing I wanted to point out is something that's a new term roughly, though the practice is old, social sourcing. We all remember when it was appropriate for a mother or father or guardian to purchase tobacco for their children, underage children. Well, that's been expanded now to include such things as an underage youth being out in front of a convenience store or other retailer, and for a sum of money asking that individual to go in and buy, which is a legal transaction. You've got a person now who's of age.
Mr. Kruger, your 2 minutes.
All righty. Thank
So-
you, Chairman. I enjoyed it. We support the bill.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you something else, though, because I forgot to remind everyone. Can you spell your name for the record?
Sure. It's Peter, P-E-T-E-R, Kruger, K-R-U-E-G-E-R.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chairman.
Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to? And I will also say, because as the committee goes and in our bill, the number of bill hearings we're hearing in a day increases, and the length of our committees increase, we're no longer under pandemic restrictions, so we can have 3 people at the table at a time. I know we all kind of got in the habit of just waiting, but we can also fill the tables here in Las Vegas as we go forward. So that way it will also just help us in the future, kind of going through this. So please proceed.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. I'm Michael Alonso. For the record, I'm here on behalf of Caesars Entertainment. I wasn't planning on testifying. We do support the bill. There was some questions that came up that I thought maybe I could help clarify. 463-350 talks about, that section about loitering in a casino being under the age of 21 applies to areas where there are games. There are no games in a restricted location. You can have up to 15 slot machines, but you can't have games. So I think the language is sufficient in that it's covering non-restricted locations, because the bars, convenience stores, and other places that have restricted locations are limited to 15 or less slot machines. They're not allowed to have games, period. So it's kind of a nuance in the language, but it is very clear, and that's been the standard for a long time here. And then with respect to the question about taverns, taverns generally mean there's food being served. They're not just bars, so minors are allowed in taverns. They're not allowed in the gaming areas. They can't sit at the bar, but they're generally allowed, even if there's slot machines, to be in the tavern. So we did not intend for taverns to be covered because of that reason. So I'm happy to try to answer any other questions that may come up.
Mr. Alonso, I just want to clarify, you're testifying in support?
I am.
Okay, thank you. And also, can you spell your name for the record?
Alonso, Alonso, first name too, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It just helps everyone that's taking minutes and making sure that everything's accurate. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 122? Anyone in Las Vegas? Not seeing anyone approach in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, please open the line. The phone number as identified in the agenda of today's meeting is 1-669-900-6833. The meeting ID today is 823-021-24802.
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 122, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify at this time.
Okay, thank you. I will go ahead and open up testimony for anyone in opposition of Assembly Bill 122.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. For the record, my name is Caitlin Gatchalian, Caitlin Gatchalian, and I am the Nevada Government Relations Director for the American Heart Association. On behalf of the American Heart Association, we oppose AB 122's provision to not check ID when offering to sell tobacco products in an area within a casino, where loitering by persons who are under 21 years of age. Nevadans expect our casinos to set standards for best practices when it comes to limiting youth access to adult vices. Requiring ID is one way to ensure youth do not get access to tobacco products in a casino. Currently, people who enter the casino do not have to get their ID checked unless it is strictly a 21-plus casino. So for this reason, there is no way to tell if someone is not 21 unless you do an ID check. This policy would reduce barriers for kids accessing tobacco products in casinos. And additionally, this policy would not be in alignment with our national best practices for reducing tobacco sales to minors. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Leah Case, Leacase, today on behalf of the Nevada Public Health Association, also in opposition to Assembly Bill 122 for the reasons stated by our sister organization, the American Heart Association. Just want to make sure that youth are not able to access tobacco products, no matter where they are. I think as Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch mentioned, there are kids who enter casinos, they may look older. We just want to make sure that youth are getting carded and making sure that they are not accessing tobacco products at that young age. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else here in Carson City to oppose Assembly Bill 122? Is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to testify in opposition to AB 122? Broadcasting, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 122, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to participate at this time.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to testimony in neutral. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in neutral. Is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to testify in neutral? Broadcasting, is there anyone on the line to testify in neutral?
If you would like to testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 122, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to participate at this time.
Thank you so much. With that, I will close the section for testimony. Assemblyman Hafen, would you like to make any final remarks?
If you're asking if I'd like to speak into a mic, Gregory Hafen, for the record, the answer is yes, always. I just have to thank you, Madam Chair and members. It's been an absolute honor. I know there was some opposition, but I believe the opposition was opposed to scanning the IDs the last legislative session because it just clearly didn't go far enough. I understand their position is they want to ban cigarettes. This is trying to address a different issue. This is trying to protect the youth and having our enforcement agencies utilize their time and efforts and energy in the best manner. So I do respect the opposition, but I do think that this is one step closer to their ultimate goal and trying to prevent youth from smoking. So I thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 122. The next item that we're taking, again, out of order on our agenda is we have a bill draft introduction. And so with this, before I introduce it, I just want to remind members that a bill draft introduction, all that we are voting on is for it to be submitted to be turned into a bill, okay? That's all we're doing. This in no way binds, ties, or is connected to your votes later on whether or not you want to vote it out of committee or vote it, going forward on the floor. So this is just about turning this bill draft request into a bill. So with that, I would like to introduce BDR number 5321. This measure revises provisions related to the protection of children from sexual exploitation. I will entertain a motion to introduce BDR number 5321. I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Do I have a second? A second. I have a lot of seconds. The loudest second was from Vice Chair Marzola. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion to move the BDR is unanimous. Thank you for that. With that, we will go ahead to our next item, which is we have two bill presentations. So we will begin with a presentation on an overview of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. We have Sergeant Jason Walker from the Administrative Division and Government Affairs Liaison Mary Sarah Keener. Oh, yes, and Corey Serafino. Good to see you again. Please proceed when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Miller. Good morning, members of the committee. I am Jason Walker, Jasonwalker, along with Mary Sarah Kinner and Chief Deputy Solferino. We'll be presenting an overview of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Speaking of Washoe County, it incorporates two major cities of Reno and Sparks, several townships, Incline Village, which is up at the beautiful Lake Tahoe, the area of Wadsworth, Via, and Gerlach. Gerlach incorporates the Black Rock Desert and is known as the area for the Burning Man Festival when that goes out there. If you've never been out to a Burning Man event, the art and the installations that come out of there are just absolutely fantastic. If you hadn't seen them, that's definitely something to see. Population of Washoe County, as I looked it up, 499,508. It's a 1 1/3% increase over a previous year. We are roughly a fifth the size of Clark County, which is Las Vegas. The county itself of Washoe was founded in 1861. It's the second largest county in Nevada, covering 6,542 miles. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office mission and vision statements. The mission statements, they're listed at the top. I will read you the vision statement. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office strives to ensure public safety by building trust and creating partnerships within the diverse communities in which we serve. We will promote the dignity of all people, supported by our words and actions, through open communication while fostering an environment of professionalism, integrity, and mutual respect. Our core values, acronym of pride, professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, and equality, with our motto of commitment to community. For 2023 through 2025, we're working on our new strategic plan. When we come up with, when we select the new pillars and all that, we'll definitely provide that and share with you as well. A little bit about the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. We provide the law enforcement services for the unincorporated area of Washoe County. We are also responsible for operating the only adult detention facility for pretrial detainees and sentenced misdemeanants within the county. The agency has an authorized strength of 443 commissioned, 301 civilian, and 60 intermittent hourly employees. The agency has approximately 422 dedicated individuals who donate their time to volunteer programs such as Search and Rescue, the Community Emergency Response Team, and the Citizens Homeland Security Council. The Sheriff's Office annual operating budget currently is $131.5 million. We have over $5 million in restricted funding such as grants and donations. Darren Balaam is the 27th person elected to serve as the Sheriff of Washoe County. He was sworn into this office January 7, 2019. Recently re-elected to his second term, he has over 26 years of dedicated service to the Sheriff's Office, having worked in all three divisions, being the administration, detention, and operations. Sheriff Balaam is committed to enhancing mental health services for inmates of the Washoe County Detention Facility and formed the DSU, or Detention Services Unit, within his first year in office. Sheriff Balaam is committed to combating human exploitation and trafficking in our community. He, along with now retired RPD Chief Soto and Sparks Police Chief Croftworth, created our HEAT team. That's the Human Exploitation and Trafficking Team within the Regional Teams Initiative. Their mission is to combat human and sex trafficking, which plagues our community. Out of all the photos that we removed from our PowerPoint, I figured our executive staff are definitely deserving of a photo op. Starting from the top, we have Sheriff Balaam, we have Under Sheriff Clark, Chief Deputy Jones, Chief Deputy Ralph Caldwell, and Chief Deputy Solferino, with the captains that work below them. And continuing on with our commission command structure, again, one sheriff, one undersheriff, 3 chief deputies over each division, being administration, detention, operations. They have 5 captains: Valley and Incline Patrol, detention, SOD, which is our Special Operations Division. We have administrative captains, and police accountability and transparency. They have 15 lieutenants who have 45 sergeants, who have 358 deputy sheriffs that proudly wear the uniform and the badge and or the boots on the street. Moving on to authorized commission staffing levels. Looking back to 2015, we were working with 423, and you can see that we're trending in the right direction. There's always the old adage of there's never a cop or there's never a deputy sheriff around when you need them. We're working to increase our numbers. The 2022 numbers, 443. I believe for 2023, we're authorized another 15. That would bring that up to 458 strong, which I'm very proud to be representing. The next slide shows our agency demographics. I'll just read through them. 79% male, 21% female, 81% are white, 11% of that are Hispanic, 4% Asian, 2.5% Black, 1% American Indian, and 0.5% Pacific Islander. And if you toggle between the agency demographics and the Washoe County demographics, I can proudly say, being the background sergeant working in the providing information to the hiring board, people often ask me, and everybody calls me Walk, hey Walk, how diverse is our academy? We have 25 in the academy right now. Going off of the Washoe County demographics and the agency demographics, we're hiring our community. you can look to see that for the Washoe County demographics, approximate split, 50.5% male, 49.5% female, and then working down through the ethnicities. I'm proud to say that the people that work for us are the people that are in our community, and I believe it helps us to police them. Starting with our administrative bureau, again, that's Chief Deputy Jones. He's responsible for backgrounds, our civil, community engagement, dispatch, front desk, the NNLEA, which is the Northern Nevada Law Enforcement Academy, our OPI office, which is Office of Professional Integrity, our records division, R&D, which is research and development, and our training and compliance unit. A highlight that we have from our R&D division, Senate Bill 176 that came out in 2017 was the rollout of the body-worn cameras. We started body-worn cameras to our Operations Bureau that year. Fast forward to 2019, we integrated Fleet 2, which is an Axon brand, into our marked patrol vehicles. We introduced the body-worn cameras to our commissioned detention personnel as well in 2021. This year, for a Q2 release, we're hoping to get Axon Fleet 3 out, and just a brief synopsis of what Fleet 3 would bring to us is the ease of video-based evidence dissemination and a more efficient workflow for the DA's as well as the PD's office. It includes an Axon interview portal and assembles all the videos and interviews, et cetera, into one complete case. When we submit our probable cause sheet, they're already asking, where's the video? That will help us to get all that at the forefront to ease decision-making at that end. Another highlight of our administrative bureau is our concealed carry permitting. Total in process, we have 1,326. This is fiscal year 22, sorry about that. From July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, we revoked 54, suspended 0, denied 44, reinstated 24, and out of the ones that we processed, just a little over 2,800 were requested by a male, 1,200 were requested by a female. Days to process, we're currently sitting at 67, and I've been involved in conversations, and the way that it works, and don't quote me on this, is but when they come in and we permit that, we collect their fingerprints and we set them to the database. And once they confirm that fingerprint, then it comes back to us. I am of the understanding that that's going to be an automated response as opposed to a personal exchange, and we're hoping to drop our days to process down from 67 to a much reasonable number. But we're currently sitting at 67 days to process a CCW. We work on a NIBRS crime reporting. NIBRS is National Incident-Based Reporting System. Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and UNRPD work to update the software platform Tiburon, who we all work with. This work included building code tables and adaptation of workflows and state of Nevada mandated training for staff. The actual transition from universal crime reporting to NIBRS reporting was August 1st of 2019. We successfully met the reporting criteria to be a NIBRS certified reporting agency in December of that year. And again, I believe it's a less than 3% margin for the crimes that we're reporting out there, so pretty stringent reporting criteria on that. Our site certification helped the state of Nevada attain FBI NIBRS certification. The FBI transitioned uniform crime reporting to NIBRS only as of January 1st, 2021. NIBRS collects much more detailed information, provides a greater analytical flexibility with crime trends and analysis. A couple of our major community outreach events that I'd like to highlight is our Christmas in July. Just last year in 2022, 1,400 parents and children that have the greatest need in our community came to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office 4th Annual Christmas in July Back to School event. During that event, over 1,200 backpacks full of school supplies and hygiene items. We fed nearly 1,400 people and gave out countless prizes for the carnival games. The record-breaking success of our annual event was a direct reflection of the kindness and generosity of people and organizations that do what it takes to realize a vision and make a positive difference in our communities. The 2022 event was held at the Boys and Girls Club of Truckee Meadows, Saturday, July 30th of 2022. Christmas in July is also mainly supported by the Washoe County Honorary Deputies Association and community sponsors such as Walmart, AT&T Pioneers, the Ferrero Group, Cisco Food, Northern Nevada Dental Health, the KT Grace Foundation, and the Boys and Girls Club of Truckee Meadows, along with Fly High Trampoline Park. The estimated cash and donations were valued at nearly $25,000. The Honorary Deputies Association donated an additional $7,000 towards their successes. Another major community outreach event that we have is the Shop with the Sheriff. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office and the Honorary Deputies Sheriff's Association asked the Washoe County School District and nonprofit agencies to identify children that have the greatest need in our community to participate in the Shop with the Sheriff. The 2022 Shop with the Sheriff event was the 20th annual, taking place on Tuesday, December 6th at a local Walmart. Just in time for Christmas, the Shop with the Sheriff pairs children who are referred by the school district and a nonprofit agencies with sheriff's office and community volunteers for a holiday shopping spree. As in years past, we will work with our organizations to select students aged 5 to 12 to participate in the next upcoming event. Lastly, I'd like to touch on our No Shave campaign. So in exchange for a monthly charitable donation from October to January, Sheriff Balaam relaxes grooming standards to allow facial hair for male deputies, and female deputies are allowed to relax their hair standards. Civilians can wear sports jerseys, they can wear jeans, and since 2016 for this outreach event, the Sheriff's Office has donated over $100,000 to a variety of deserving local charities. Next division that I'd like to highlight is our Detention Bureau, which is run by Chief Deputy Caldwell. He manages our Alternatives to Incarceration, which is also our Inmate Assistance Program, the 2nd Judicial District Court Bailiffs, our Court Transportation, our DSU, which is the Detention Services Unit, our DRT, which is our Detention Response Team, our IMU, which is our Inmate Management Unit, along with the programs that transpire at the Detention Bureau. A few of the highlights are obviously our Detention Services Unit. We have a MAT program, Medically Assisted Treatment Program, 1 of 12 accredited. Also incorporates social services, discharge planners, local social services, grant funded from Join Together Northern Nevada Advocate. We have a Veterans Unit. Programs, to name a couple, are Narcotics Anonymous, Alcohol Anonymous, and anger management classes. Some of the stats from 2022 from the detention facility. Our average daily population is up to 1,241 inmates. And out of those, our average length of stay is up to just over 23 days, and that's from January of 2022 to May of 2022. Bookings total just a little over 16,000. And the inmate cost per day varies based off the time of year. Wintertime, a couple of extra blankets, a thermal, costs a little bit more. We kind of average between $126 to maybe on the high side $180. They're receiving a standard of care of up to $500 for those that aren't on a MAT program or an OUD program or mental health program. It could range from $500 to $800 for a standard of care per inmate per day for the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. The detention facility also operates a multiplex. When COVID hit, courts didn't stop. The world didn't stop. Some things obviously changed. What I did cut out of this photo, and maybe I could show you at another time, we set up video court connections with everybody that's out there because these people that were in our custody needed to go be seen, be heard, and have an opportunity to make bail. So we have video court connections with Sparks Justice Court, Incline Village Justice Court, Reno, Wadsworth, and Reno and Sparks Community Courts, along with federal and tribal courts. 4 courtrooms, we call them the pink arraignment, green arraignment, red and blue arraignment rooms. There's 8 individual video court stations, and iPads are available for use within the housing units. A few of the transportation statistics from the court transportation unit. You can see pre-COVID, which was 2018 to 2019, we were a little over to mid 6,000. COVID hit, we dropped down to just about 3,500. Now we're trending back up in 2022. We're up to 4,800 just for district court appearances. All other total court events, you can see for 2022, again, trending upwards, 27,000. That's moving inmates around, getting them to video court. So that unit is definitely busy, moving people to make sure that they make their court dates and appearances. Next, highlighting the Operations Bureau, which is run by Chief Deputy Solferino. He's responsible for Detective Division, Patrol, our MATE team, which is our Major Accident Investigation team, our Marine 9, which is our boat resource up at Incline Village, our Motors unit, our EOD, which is the bomb techs, our extraditions, our hostage team, K9, the Interdiction Task Force, Northern Nevada Regional Intelligence Center, Raven, which is our aviation resources, RGU, which is our gang unit, SAR, Search and Rescue, Special Weapons and Tactics, as well as a couple of other regional teams. With the dispatch in there, obviously dispatch, police, EMS, and fire. They dispatched out 106,270 entries. Out of that, the police were dispatch calls for service were 17,080 with an additional officer initiated. And officer initiated are traffic stops, subject stops, park checks, business checks. Just under 43,000, so approximately 60,000 calls for service annually. Again, with our regional teams initiative, Washoe County, Reno, Sparks Police Department, the gang unit, the crime suppression unit, narcotics, heat, SONU is our sex offender notification unit, ICAC. International crimes against children, they all fall under the INRIC umbrella, and what that means is we just share information regionally. It's one thing for one entity to know something, but it's much greater if all entities know the same thing and we focus on what's important at the time. Washoe County Sheriff's Office patrol personnel are currently working on a stratified policing model. Simply put, it's a place-based policing, person-focused, problem-solving, community-based, all into one methodology. It's intelligence-led policing with real-time crime analytics. That's difficult to say. We have accountability meetings where stakeholders come in and they say, where are we at on this problem? What are we doing? Why isn't it solved? Is there anything that we can do to fix it? And it's not only from the deputies and the sergeants that are there. If it gets up to a chief deputy, I'm not doing my job as a sergeant, and my people that work for me aren't doing their job. So it's a top-down, bottom-up accountability, and I think we're working it pretty strong. You can see the top-down, bottom-up, where you have the action-oriented and evaluation-oriented crime analysis products. That's how we work it. I can tell you proudly that I haven't taken anything direct to the sheriff. We try and take care of it before it gets to him. We're happy to use that. A couple highlights from our Special Operations Division for 2022 is our search and rescue team. Out of that search and rescue team, there's 185 requests for service, 82 actual responses. Accumulated volunteer hours of just under 5,000 volunteer hours with a cost savings of $333,727. Another great asset that we have is the Raven resource, or helicopters that are out there. 63 requests for service, 43 responses, totaling 255 flight hours. All agencies, outside agencies. We have MOUs. A lot of people call for our helicopter asset. It's a very valuable program. And last but not least is our Forensic Science Division, or our Crime Lab. Crime Lab, our Forensic Science Division, provides service for 13 of the 17 counties in Nevada and Central Nevada, and 1 county in California. Local, state, federal, tribal agencies within these counties. Scope of their services: breath alcohol calibration, controlled substances, crime scenes, DNA, firearms, latent print processing, latent print comparison, and toxicology for both alcohol and drugs. In reaching out to Director Johnson, I asked him to provide me a couple of highlights, and immediately came up with these, and he says, here's where we are right now. So since 2020, they've analyzed 979 cases for controlled substances. They've assisted law enforcement agencies with implementing portal drug screening devices to reduce officer exposure to potentially harmful drugs. And what that is a grant for what's called a TruNarc device. Everybody can look at a bag of something and see that it's a white crystal-like substance. That white crystal-like substance could potentially be lethal to you. So what this TruNarc machine does, you can get it right close to it in its packaging, and it gives you presumptive for what it is. Because we could all look at it and guess that it might be one or the other or the other. But what that does is it reduces an officer exposure, so it really keeps us safe. It's nice that we have those. Our crime lab also responded to 83 homicides in the area. They've lowered our DNA backlog by 408 cases, reduced turnaround times by 337 days. That's nearly a year. Reported 694 DNA database hits from CODIS. Firearms are reduced turnaround times by 307 days. Eliminated the firearms database backlog and reported 427 leads. They completed 858 latent print cases, reported 157 database hits. Toxicology, they changed their drug testing policy to test for drugs even if cases with high alcohol results, sort of like a poly screen on a DUI, where you know you have alcohol based off slow slurred speech, the odor about their person, but they're tested for that poly also. That concludes my presentation. I hope that I've highlighted some of the things that I proudly serve every day for the Washington County Sheriff's Office. I hope I answered some of your questions that you may have. I'd like to open it up unless Mary Sarah or Chief Solperino have anything to add.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Corey Solferino representing the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, C-O-R-E-Y, S as in Sam, O-L, F as in Frank, E-R-I-N-O. Just a pleasure to be up here today. There was a couple opportunities. You saw me probably jump to the button to try to say something, but I did want to mess up Sergeant Walker's operational tempo on the presentation. He'll be replacing me after 4 sessions up here. I'm proudly handing over the reins to Sergeant Walker to be the daily representative from the Sheriff's Office with Government Affairs Liaison Mary Sarah Kinner. Just an opportunity to thank you guys for everything that you've done for me. For my career, I learned a lot by modeling policy, by sitting down, having difficult conversations with each and every one of you on how we actually try to combat crime, how we try to be better community partners in our region. And I can say unequivocally that Sheriff Balaam and the men and women of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office are proud to do that. We've tried to be progressive. We've tried to be trendsetters in that area. Obviously, we do have some very concerning decisions to make moving forward with our issues with the overcrowding jail population. Our capacity is at its max at about 1,300. You see that we're hovering around the 1,200 personnel range on a daily basis. Court times are increasing as far as being able to get our people to court and being able to get them out of custody. The mental health hearing, those are competency hearings are troublesome. In order to get our people into the counseling services they need and getting the clearance that they need to be able to get out of custody and thrive and get the services, the detention services unit that Sheriff Balaam created is truly one of the best resources that we've done in the last 5 years. By being able to have a discharge planner, social workers on site, and giving these people the services that they need so they don't recidivate, they don't come back, they have those wraparound services is imperative to their success. And obviously, we'd much rather them thrive on the outside than have to be residents of 911 Park Boulevard. But just happy to be here, happy to answer any questions you have and highlight some of the things that our agency is doing and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I will confirm that Sheriff Walker has already done a tremendous job since day one of meeting with us and, just familiarizing himself and introducing himself to everyone here. And so we appreciate that during this transition. With that, as you can imagine, we have a number of questions. So I hope you all are ready. All right, first question comes from Assemblyman Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Sergeants. Good morning, Ms. Kinner. Question regarding concealed carry with LEOSA HR 218. I've received complaints from different retired officers from actually throughout the state, and I don't know if you guys are doing this, but I want to find out and get to the bottom of it. Some agencies are requiring more than HR 218 requires to carry under LEOSA. Some are requiring annual qualification with the retiree's agency of record, which would be, burdensome, and some are requiring annual letters of, good standing. Are you guys involved in that at all? Or are you guys just requiring and this may be a better question posed to sheriffs and chiefs, but are you guys requiring anything above and beyond what HR 218 requires?
Jason Walker for the record. I'd have to circle back on that, Assemblyman Gray. I don't believe that we are. I work on that side of the house and haven't heard any issues in that area coming from them, but I have noted that and I will circle back with you on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next question from Assemblywoman Newby.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you for your presentation. On the forensics effort on, I believe it's slide 29, you presented about how the turnaround times on DNA and firearms and others have decreased by a significant amount. But those are still pretty long times. What is your turnaround time right now for some of these testing issues? And also, what is the status in RPD's participation in forensics?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, through you to the Assemblywoman.
Please go direct.
Thank you, ma'am. Corey Solferino for the record. I hate saying the word backlog. Backlog's not a true and accurate representation. A lot of these were unprocessed cases. For whatever reason, they weren't sent for processing. At one point in time, when we worked with then Majority Leader Teresa Benitez Thompson regarding the backlog of DNA cases for forensic testing, we tested everything in our repertoire. There may have been a host of reasons why we did not process those, whether it was recanted, whether it was an admission of guilt or whatever. We ended up taking a lot of these cases and farming them out to the FBI laboratory in order to get a DNA profile. With that, we allowed our forensic science division to hire additional resources and get those processed. The exact turnaround time as it sits today, I'll get with Director Johnson and get those records to you through the committee secretary as soon as I get back to the office. With Reno's processing, what Reno ended up doing is rather than hiring our services and having our forensic investigators respond to those crime scenes, they're creating their own forensic investigators. They still have to utilize our lab for the processing of said evidence, but they're hiring their own forensic investigators, if you will, and training them up to that standard. But they will still be using our crime lab for the analysis piece.
Thank you for the question. Next question is from Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's good to see you all, and nice to meet you, Mr. Walker. Captain Solferino, we're going to miss you. It's been fun to watch your daughter grow up throughout the years, and appreciate some of the hard questions that you've had to, and conversations you've had with us, and your transparency. So thank you for that. In regards to the Raven helicopter, I was just curious because I do have several rural counties in my district. Are there times where, even though you're Washoe County, is the Raven helicopter available to other of the rural counties as well when they have a need?
Jason Walker, absolutely. We're in contact with them at any time of the day. Other than weather-based that the helicopter just can't get up, it is a resource that's available to them when it's available.
Thank you for your question. Next question is from Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I have some questions about the portal drug screening devices. That seems wonderful. What I'm wondering is, are they portable? Are they in each vehicle? Are there, like how many are there? And also, is it a full screen, or are they limited to what they can detect? Thank you.
That's an excellent question. The TrueNarc device, it's probably in a 13 by 13 case. We have 2 of them assigned to the sergeants. If a deputy is out on a scene and they're unsure of what they have, they contact the sergeant. The sergeant says, hold on a second, pump the brakes. The machine comes out to them. And again, it's a handheld device that's big, and it just puts out a presumptive. It goes through a series of analytics, and it'll just pop up with what it says. It's not like a NIC kit where you're shaking and agitating different things and you're trying to determine if this color's this color. It tells you something on the screen. Oftentimes it'll say undetermined, and at that point we don't know what the substance is. But I think it's better safe than sorry, specifically with the fentanyl that's out there. That's our number one thing, is officer safety. So that TrueNarc goes out to the scene. We have 2 of them assigned to patrol.
Thank you. I have a follow-up to that because I actually had the same question as well. But my question was more specific to, you said that it's presumptive and it tells us what it believes the substance is. But is there any way for it to calculate, as you mentioned, fentanyl, like the percentage of, so if something is cut, do we know what percent?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I don't have an answer to that. I can definitely circle back on that. The TrueNarc machine comes with a series of directions that I can certainly get that information on. And again, I don't believe so, to answer your question, but don't quote me on that. I will circle back with you on that.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Corey Solferino for the record. Just to give a little bit more detail on that, it will give a presumptive, so it's not used in any criminal evidentiary type notification. It's more of a presumptive for the officer so we know how to handle it in the field. If there's any trace amounts, it won't tell us to that degree of what it actually is, but it allows us to, in order to outfit our officers with personal protective equipment, handle that, package it, evidentiary, and then get it to the lab and say, hey, this is definitively, not maybe definitively, but this has trace amounts of fentanyl in it, or methamphetamine, heroin. Use caution for our crime lab when they're going through that. And to Sergeant Walker's point, the NIC tests of yesterday, where you used to crack vials with glass and then add some product and shake them up, obviously has a host of issues with exposure to our officers. And like Sergeant Walker said, that is our biggest priority, is protecting them and making sure they're not ingesting any harmful substances.
Okay, so I appreciate that clarification. So it's really just for safety for the officers. It's not admitted as evidence into any court proceedings. Thank you for that clarification. And then you talk about shaking up the bottles, and we're all thinking about the movies where they just taste it, right? So much better than that. Thank you. Next question from Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you for providing data. This is really good, but because you're experienced, I know you knew that some questions were going to come. I wanted to kind of dig in a little deeper when you talk about your detention population. I think that is slide, I don't know, it's in the detention stats from 2022. Do you have any breakdown of what, who, if those folks are in there for the level of crime? Are there minor infractions, or are these all higher level? Can you kind of break down, do you have any of that data?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Corey Solferino for the record. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, I'm glad you asked that question, and I apologize because it's probably going to be about another week and a half. I was hoping to have them with you today. We have a robust, about 72 to 80 page State of the Sheriff's Office annual report it's actually sitting on the Sheriff's desk as we speak, and we'll be pushing out a press release later this week, if not early next week. I'm going to get hand copies for each and every one of you to deliver to both the Senate and the Assembly Judiciary that has that demographic breakdown. One of the things that I will say unequivocally that is bothersome is that everybody that can be out is out. So we're seeing our jail population, higher levels of crime, gross misdemeanors and felonies. A lot of the misdemeanors are out within that average length of stay time span. Once they're doing that, mine just drew a blank, I apologize, Jimenez hearing and have that bail reduction hearing, or literally getting out with those service pieces, we don't have those individuals that are staying in our custody for that length of time. These are people that are literally having a mental health competency hearing that are waiting to get out, felony charges pending court appearances. So a robust portion of our 1,262, I want to say, earlier this week, of what our jail population is currently pending some sort of trial and or competency hearing moving forward. But I will get those stats to you today and make sure the committee secretary gets you the annual report as soon as we publish it.
Thank you for that question. I also love math. It's, you know, the universal language that reveals all. And even when as you were doing the presentation, I was just calculating some numbers, and it seems like at the low end for $126 a day, that's our low end. It's about $3,780 a month per person that's incarcerated. And then at the higher end, which you said was $180 a day, wintertime, for a month could be $5,400. So I'm just putting the math out there because y'all can further calculate it. And while that's in no way saying that money isn't necessary or used appropriately or effectively, efficiently, but it's just numbers to be aware of. So thank you for that. And we look forward to the submission of those other statistics. We have another question from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for being with us today. So my question is about forensics. We had public defenders come in yesterday, and one of their challenges is with the drug testing of individuals. They said those tests are often qualitative rather than quantitative, so we can see an individual has these various drugs in their system, but we can't see how much, which was incompatible with our weights-based statutes. And so I just wondered if you could speak to the types of tests that are being done and whether it is possible for us to do that quantitative testing.
Corey Solferino for the record. So I'm glad you asked that question, ma'am. And I sat down with our forensic division yesterday for their operational brief. One of the issues with the quantitative testing methodology is a change in all of our instrumentation. And the fact that you have to literally test every piece of every molecule of every gram. So what we're looking for are the amounts. Is fentanyl present? Is heroin present? Is methamphetamine present? If we go to change those styles of testing, it is my understanding both the Clark County Forensic Science Division and the Wash County Sheriff's Office Forensic Science Division would end up having to change their entire instrument cluster. We're not in a position to do that currently. We're looking for trace amounts. You're also looking at the turnaround times that right now are not advantageous for everybody to get results on. To test 2.5 pounds of substance, to test hundreds of pounds of substances when we're talking about different controlled substances will take extreme amounts of time. I'd be happy to get our crime lab director, Steve Johnson, up here to give a presentation to you to talk about the differences in it, but it is challenging, and obviously a lot of the things that drive our decisions moving forward monetarily would be a huge financial impact moving forward. But if you would like that, I would absolutely be happy to arrange that presentation.
Thank you for that. Assemblywoman Hardy.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to all of you, and welcome, Sergeant Walker. So my question was just about your slides about the available spots, additional spots that you will have for officers. And if you could just talk a little bit about, do you still have people interested in being in law enforcement, or you have any challenges in getting good recruiting classes? If you would just address that. Thank you.
That's a great question. And Jason Walker, I'm background sergeant, so I am right there at the very first introduction of, hey, come and talk to this person who wants to work for the Wash County Sheriff's Office. So I bring out our flyer. I talk about the career aspect of it, some of the adrenaline junkie of it, the pride in serving the community, the career at the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. And to answer your question, we're getting more applications in currently than we can look at, which I think is very good. We just put 25 in the academy. They're currently in the January academy. We're looking at another 25 for July. With retirements, I think we might hit that 25 number for every academy. That's a regional academy. That 25 is only for Washoe County. Reno, Sparks, a couple of other agencies are right there in that NNLEA. As far as recruitment efforts, we currently are, and I'll just throw it, we're recruiting for females. When I first applied in 2005, and it was then Deputy Solferino was my background investigator. That's how far back we go. He says, Walk, your application looks really good. We're looking for females this time, and we're really putting a push on females right now. We currently have 4 that are going to be on our board for July. I put the number up there for my people. If we can get 10 females in an academy, that would be huge for our agency. The female deputies have, I don't want to say the most difficult job in the jail, but they kind of do. A male can work in a female housing unit. We don't search the females in intake. The female deputy has to. So their job is, in my opinion, more difficult. And because of that, I'd like to get as many females as I can in academy. Again, we're looking at hundreds of applications to put the best person forward for an academy. A lot of times an FTO program or an academy works some of those people out, but what we see and what we interview, we're trying to get the best that we can. And we're also in a great spot, and I kind of feel bad about this, but we're getting a bunch of lateral people coming in. We're hiring from other agencies. Our program just looks a little bit better than other people's programs, whether it's money, whether it's the fact that they can work in the jail. The jail is 70 degrees, 365 days out of the year. On the days that you're outside and it's 110, the jail looks pretty good. Somebody that's at the end of their career that has done a 20-year career at another agency and they want to get their top 3 coming to work for the jail, come on, I got a job for you. So we are in a real good position where we're hiring as much as we can, and Sheriff Balaam says, don't stop.
And Madam Chair, Corey Sulfrum, for the record, one thing I'd like to add too, if you look at our agency demographics, we were about 81% male and about 19% female. Sheriff Balaam is big on the 30 for 30 initiative and changing those paradigms. Predominantly, females have not been not recognized, it's not the word. It's not been a profession for them to want to get into. So we're trying to change that paradigm. We're trying to show, hey, we're changing standards. We're looking across the board. We're looking for a more diverse career. My wife was an investigative assistant where I met her when she was in the backgrounds unit. And for years and years and years, then Sheriff Haley looked at her and said, hey, why don't you go to the academy? You can be doing all of these different things versus just working as an investigative assistant and making a lot more money, more benefits, more diversity for your career. And she took him up on that. And she's been a happy law enforcement officer for the past 17 years. So it is. It's getting out to the community. It's changing paradigms. It's getting people to understand they can do this job. She's a feisty 5'2" Costa Rican, but she can handle business, and I am scared of her, and I will say that on the record. So there are times that I will not take her to task at all, and neither do other people. But we are looking for those initiatives. We're looking for the best qualified applicants, and we really do have a great agency that people want to come work for right now. So I get Sergeant Walker's issues with stealing people from other agencies, but we do create a family environment. We do have a good benefits package, and we do have a diversity of assignments. You see all the things that I'm responsible for just on the operations side of the house, not to mention some of the things that we talked about on the detention and administrative sides of the house. We have a lot of opportunity to jump around. I've never done a job for more than 3 years in my entire career, so a lot of people strive for that diversity. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I would just like to acknowledge that here in the first female majority legislature, our goal is always 60% female, so. Okay. I would also like to follow up with the question about, so we're talking about obviously gender diversity, but what about diversity in applicants when it comes to race and ethnicity, religion, just, all the other diversities that we have?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. Corey Solferino for the record. Sheriff Balaam has created a number of community outreach groups from diversity and inclusion to the faith-based community. We are always out there recruiting. So whether we're doing a race symposium and encouraging college students and local high school students in the community to come and talk to us, Sergeant Walker is always there with his background people to talk about careers in law enforcement. One of the other initiatives that we're doing, because we realized through research that by the time that we get to students in their high school years or their college years, it's harder to change that behavior. So we need to start in the elementary schools and recruiting, and we need to start in the middle schools specifically. Our sheriff has a number of deputies that adopt an elementary school, that adopt a middle school, and they go there routinely, so they're that point of contact, whether it's reading at lunch, whether it's playing games at lunch, whether it's just being there for the kids and for the administrators to get to see what a day in the life of law enforcement looks like. Obviously, too, we try to entice them a little bit. We're not above that, so we'll bring the SWAT men and women, we'll bring the canines, we'll bring the helicopters. We want to show them all the good things that we have to do. So make that truly positive interaction with them in a safe environment versus those evenings where we have to show up and maybe mom and dad are under the influence of alcohol, maybe there's some domestic violence going on. We try to make those positive interactions, build those relationships so they feel comfortable coming to us. And we have seen positive returns on that. Prior to my promotion to chief, I was captain of Incline Village in South District Patrol. I worked with the local school administrators, because even though they're represented by the Washoe County School District Police, they had limited resources up there. We had a lot of resources that we could throw out there, and developing relationships with each and every one of those administrators and principals is key not only to our success in curbing crime in that region, but to building those relationships and recruiting our fan base. I'm teaching an introductory criminal justice class at the University of Nevada, Reno this year. I do tours in the jail, I do tours at Jan Evans, I make them go on ride-alongs. I'm recruiting from within. So I think everyone up here does that opportunity. Come work for us, and it's worked out.
We appreciate that. If there's any statistics that you could provide to the committee, we'd appreciate that as well, because we support your efforts in the idea, just like in the legislature, we need to look like the people. And so in law enforcement, as we're striving to, improve relationships in our communities, we know that's an important factor as well, to look like the people that we serve. So thank you for that. Any final comments? One more I have, because I would be remiss not to acknowledge that I made a mistake referring to you as Sheriff Walker. You are Sergeant Walker, and that is a distinction that needs to be recognized, so I apologize for that. Any other additional comments? All right, well, thank you so much for your presentation. With that, we will close that presentation, although I don't think I technically have to, and move on to the next agenda item, which is a presentation from our Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, Office of Intergovernmental Services. Today we have Director Police Sergeant Beth Schmidt, Police Detective Adrian Hunt, and Police Detective Christopher Reese. Rice or Reese?
It's Reese, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you. Please proceed when you are ready.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the Assembly Judiciary for inviting us to speak to you today. For the record, my name is Beth Schmidt, B-E-T-H-S-C-H-M-I-D-T, and I am the Director of Intergovernmental Services for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. With me today are Detectives Adrian Hunt and Chris Reese. LVMPD is one of the largest police agencies in the United States. Our mission, it is to provide exceptional police services in partnership with the community. And we want to stress that phrase, in partnership with the community, because we recognize as a law enforcement agency, we cannot be effective working exclusively on our own. Our success can only be achieved through collaboration, by building strong relationships and partnering with individuals, groups, and organizations throughout our community. We police 7,560 square miles in southern Nevada. We are responsible for ensuring the safety of 1.7 million residents and 39 million tourists who visit our community annually. The LVMPD uses commissioned officers as our lobbyists because we speak from positions of experience and knowledge when it comes to policing and corrections. As the director, this is my 14th year with the agency. I have served as a sergeant, a detective, and an officer. Detective Adrian Hunt, to my left, your right, is in his 17th year with the LVMPD. He spent 13 years as a corrections officer with us and has been a police officer now for 4 years. Detective Chris Reese, to my right, your left, is in his 14th year with the LVMPD. Our sheriff, Kevin McMahill, was sworn in last month as the 8th elected sheriff of the LVMPD. Prior to becoming our sheriff, he dedicated 30 years to our organization, rising to the role of undersheriff for then Sheriff Joe Lombardo. He retired from the LVMPD in 2020, and in 2022, he successfully ran for and won the Sheriff of Clark County race. Sheriff Kevin McMahill's #1 priority is to inject more humanity into our policing model. And what do we mean by that? History shows us that police agencies and cities and counties don't improve neighborhoods by arresting their way out of the problem. If we want to improve public safety and quality of life, police agencies need to inject more humanity into how we treat the people we are allowed to serve. After all, we derive our power from our community. As an agency, We are moving away from labeling neighborhoods as problems and crime hotspots. Instead, we see them for what they are, vulnerable communities. And we're asking ourselves how we as a police department can create dramatically different outcomes and create long-lasting relationships moving forward. Another priority of our sheriff is the establishment of a wellness bureau. The intent of the bureau is to take care of our employees' physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Our mission is to bring together police, fire, and EMS with the goal of taking care of them in a profoundly different way. We believe that with this approach, we will be able to serve our community with a deeper sense of understanding and care. The LVMPD is celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. We were created in 1973 when the Nevada Legislature voted to merge the Clark County Sheriff's Office with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, or the Las Vegas Police Department. Historically, most police departments are funded by cities and sheriff's departments are funded by counties. LVMPD is a hybrid among law enforcement agencies. The LVMPD is funded by NRS 280. The Fiscal Affairs Committee provides oversight and approval of all LVMPD fiscal issues except for the detention center budget. Our budget for this year is $1.4 billion. 35% of our budget is self-generated from property and sales taxes. The remaining 65% is split between Clark County and the City of Las Vegas based on a formula that utilizes population, calls for service, and felony crimes. We employ 5,800 people. 4,000 of these employees are commissioned officers. 3,100 of these employees are police officers. 900 are corrections officers in our jail. 1,800 of our employees are civilian. Our overall percentage of women in the agency is 33%. We know this is a number we need to work on, but that includes our civilian and our commission. Our commission population of women is 15%. One of our greatest challenges, unlike our friends at Washoe, it is recruitment and it's retention. And these are nationwide challenges for police departments. And that challenge for us is both on our commission side and our civilian side. And our civilian side includes our dispatchers, who are so critical to the services we provide. One of the approaches that our sheriff is taking is, historically, we have looked outside of our community for our recruiting. And our sheriff has said, let's try this. Let's try improving that recruitment and trying to continue within our community. And how are we going to do that? We're going to build bridges and continue to build those bridges in the Las Vegas Valley, especially in our communities of color, because we admit that we are still remain challenged in filling our ranks with non-white officers and non-white employees. We're looking specifically, one of the things is to find ways to bridge that gap between the ages of 18 and 21, because you can't become a police officer till 21. So the goal is, how do we take these young men and women in our community and help grow and develop both their interest in working in policing and developing those skill sets that will make them strong candidates to join our organization. The map on the screen, it shows you a sense of just how vast our area is that we cover. This map is LVMPD's jurisdiction. It shows the colors break down into 10 different area commands. Each area command has a captain. In addition to this vast area, we are also responsible for Harry Reid International Airport. Now, every one of those area commands, all 10 of them, has a community-oriented policing squad and crime prevention specialists to serve their neighborhoods. And I will say that those area commands do not break down by your districts. So when you request information for us, we do have maps where we can pull just for your districts. So for many of you, you will fall under multiple area commands. We have other bureaus and divisions that include K-9, Search and Rescue, our forensic lab, our crime scene investigators. We house the Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Center, which serves as Nevada's fusion center. We have a real-time crime center that utilizes technology and real-time analytics to help solve crimes. Recently, one of our real-time camera operators located bank robbers. We had been looking for them, and these bank robbers had robbed 5 banks in 20 days, and they were using stolen vehicles to move around the valley. One of our camera operators was able to guide our officers right into these robbers as they got out of a vehicle, and they were taken into custody without incident. This is just one example of how the LVMPD is successfully using technology. Our goal for 2023 is to reduce overall crime in Las Vegas Valley by 10%. Last year, our jurisdiction saw a 6% drop in homicides and an overall reduction in violent crime of 4%. Among the major cities in the United States, the average murder solvability rate is 51%. So for those of you who have told us that you like data, the disheartening part of that in most major cities is that 49% of those murders don't get solved. And when we talk about murder, solvability rates matter. And we are incredibly proud to say that the LVMPD's homicide section, we lead the nation among the major cities when it comes to solving murders. In 2021, we solved nearly 94% of our homicides in Las Vegas. Right now, investigations are continuing for year 2022. Right now, we are at a 89% solve rate, but as those are starting to wrap up those investigations, we expect the murder solvability rate to rise to between 92 and 94% for 2022. The LVMPD has demonstrated a continuous effort to learn and improve since the U.S. Department of Justice worked with us on collaborative reform in 2012. Under then Sheriff Doug Gillespie, we voluntarily stepped up and agreed to a deep dive assessment of our uses of force, or uses of deadly force. As a result of this collaboration, LVMPD is considered as a national model in reducing officer-involved shootings. Our use of force policy changed then, and it is continually updated as we learn through our reviews of incidents that happen both here and nationwide. In 2014, we voluntarily participated in a body-worn camera pilot program. I personally stepped up at that time as an officer and said, I'll wear a camera. The result of that was consequently the LVMPD became the first major police department to wear body-worn cameras. As an agency, we are consistently ahead of the curve when it comes to police reform. How are we ahead of the curve? Well, the way we release information to the media, including our transparency and accountability. We are the only police department in the country that releases a video with preliminary details of an officer-involved shooting. And those are done from the scene within hours. And you'll see most of them, you'll see it'll be the middle of the night when that preliminary YouTube video is put out. We follow that up with a live media briefing 72 hours after a critical incident. In addition, we employ a dual model of investigating critical incidents. Those are through our force investigation team, which are looking at the investigative aspects of it, and our critical incident review team, which is looking at the administrative aspects of it. There is further participation from the community in this process in the form of a citizen use of force review board members. De-escalation is a critical component of our policing model. Our officers have a duty to intervene with no retaliation. And we stress the importance of monitoring subjects and immediately summoning medical attention if required. We hold our supervisors accountable, and we expect them to be involved in the management of our overall response to potentially violent encounters. The Clark County Detention Center, or CCDC, is funded 100% by the Clark County General Fund. CCDC is comprised of 2 facilities. On an average day, we house 2,800 men and women. Last year, we processed 52,000 bookings. Clark County Detention Center is a county jail, and we've been asked to explain the difference between a prison and a jail. So bear with me on this. If an individual is housed in a prison, it means, if an individual is housed in a prison, they have been sentenced to more than a year for their crime. A jail, like CCDC, typically houses individuals who are serving less than a 1-year sentence. In the case of CCDC, most of our inmates are awaiting trial or sentencing. The Clark County Detention Center is the largest mental health facility, largest addiction treatment center, and the largest homeless center in the state of Nevada. We know that incarceration does not fix mental health, addiction, or homelessness. Sheriff McMahill's intention is for the LVMPD to do as much as we can to help our vulnerable citizens, those who are struggling with mental health, addiction, and homelessness. And 2 months into his tenure, we are already working in partnership with the City of Las Vegas, Clark County, and other stakeholders to solve what people claim are unsolvable problems. We know this is a heavy lift. But through leadership and partnership, we believe that together we can affect change in Clark County. But we cannot solve these problems without help from the community. One of the hallmarks of our agency is the way we build relationships and conduct community outreach. Community engagement, it is a tenet of our agency. Our Office of Community Engagement promotes prevention, education, support, and redirection. Our homeless outreach team, their mission is to partner with community providers to identify alternatives to arrest and challenges to reduce homelessness. Some of our other outreach is conducted through youth outreach, faith-based programs, First Tuesdays, Coffee with a Cop, our Citizens Police Academy, and our Hispanic Citizens Police Academy. And I want to highlight what we call MMAC, and that is Metro's Multicultural Advisory Council. For 20 years, this diverse group of community members has listened to the public safety concerns of our community and worked with LVMPD to strategize on how to improve policy and policing procedures within our organization. MMAC members represent our diverse community, including Hispanics, African Americans, Asian Americans, Arab Americans, the LGBTQIA+ community, the ACLU, the Anti-Defamation League, and the NAACP. Some of the current challenges MMAC is helping our agency address are recruitment, mental health awareness, homelessness, substance abuse, and the reduction of youth violence and homicide. The LVMPD remains committed to ensuring all citizens of Southern Nevada feel safe, supported, and proud of their police department. Thank you, Chair Miller.
Thank you for the presentation. Does that conclude the presentation? Okay, thank you. Again, we do have a number of questions. We will begin with Vice Chair Marzola.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My question relates to slide 5, Shara's priorities. Number 1, injecting more humanity. Can you talk a little bit more about that? How are you doing that? Is it additional training for your officers?
Thank you for that question. When we saw, for the record, Beth Schmidt. When we saw officers kneel on George Floyd's neck and murder him, that was 3 years ago. Many, many, many agencies took a hard look at how we were policing. We thought we made changes, and then we all woke up to find out what happened to Tyree Nichols. And it makes us say, how does that happen? How? Those are police officers who are sworn to protect. You think that things change. And what our sheriff sees is that we must take the lead. Our agency has taken the lead on so many things nationwide that we must take the lead. We must step up and point out the obvious, that you must show humanity. You must intervene. And so for us, so much of this is in our policy. But this is a continuing conversation. This is a conversation at a supervisory level. Our sheriff holds us accountable as supervisors to have these discussions with our officers and to identify someone who maybe is heading down the wrong track. And we have our early identification and program, which is our early warning system. So much of this, it has to start from the top. And it's how we treat each other internally. It's how we treat people that we police. So this is what our sheriff is saying. This is not some concept that we just expect to happen. It starts with him. It comes to me. It's at our brand new recruit. We expect everyone to inject more humanity. We all can, just on a daily basis, regardless if you're a police officer. We can all put ourselves in someone else's shoes.
So have you guys added additional procedures, additional training, some sort of counseling? I'm trying to figure out what's the difference now versus even a year ago, right? Or 6 months ago.
Yeah, Beth Schmidt for the record. Our sheriff is brand new, and he's building on what our sheriff prior to this did, Sheriff Lombardo. We have so much in our policy already that spells this out, but this is, do we see more training coming? Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. We also are working with, at this point, it is a messaging that we are working on right now. But this is something, as I say, he's less than 2 months into his tenure, and it's starting right now with messaging, that this is the expectation, this is what you're being held accountable to. And so these are things that we are going to be incorporating into our training and into our processes.
Thank you. I apologize for not asking for a follow-up.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I would like to say that I appreciate your awareness, and I appreciate the change of culture, because it is a culture shift that is being attempted, and the awareness of it. I personally, my bachelor's is in criminal justice, and I studied at a time that was after Rodney King, after a lesser-known individual, Malice Green, that happened in Detroit. And so at the time, studying criminal justice, it was very much so from the community policing perspective, the cultural awareness and sensitivity, the de-escalation. And it just, again, the question is, we can ask the question, how did we get here? Or was it, because again, that's what we were trained and educated on, or was it just, again, as many people have acknowledged, we never left there. It's just because of video cameras and the ability for things to be exposed and seen at a greater level. But again, so I come from that community partnership model and desire, and want us to continue on that track.
Thank you, Chair Miller, and Beth Schmidt for the record. If I can say that everyone that works in policing, if you're gonna, you need to not only talk the talk, but you need to walk the walk when it comes to this. And we are stepping up as leaders and as one of the largest police agencies to say that out loud, and to say this is what we've always done, but we're telling you right now, we are going to do it even more.
Thank you for that, because you also know there's many people in this room and watching that are more than willing to offer their levels of accountability for that.
Yes, and Beth Schmidt for the record, Chair Miller, we know we can't do this alone, but we're not going to stand by and say, well, what are you going to do? That's the way it's been. Our sheriff says, no, we're not doing that. We're going to give this the best effort and the best try that we can, and he's working with the whole community to do this. So we hope that we can shift things starting in Southern Nevada.
Thank you for that. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate this presentation. Thank you so much. My question continues on Vice Chair's question. When it comes to these priorities, how do you plan to measure them to also show how it was enacted? I heard things like assets-based language when it came to injecting more humanity, but would also love to know some other ways you plan to measure.
Thank you for the question, Beth Schmidt, for the record. Again, this is a very early process that we are just talking about this, but some of the ways we measure is through our early identification and intervention program, and I was a detective in that unit. That was how we track people. That is how it's very important that our supervisors are very involved in that process and that they know what their people are doing and what their people are saying, and that includes behind closed doors what they're saying, and that we address issues. So we will be looking at early identification, intervention, tracking that. We'll also be looking, I also was a detective in internal affairs. And I think that that's something that we need to track through there. The most common complaint for us in internal affairs is interaction with the public. That is the name of our policy. And that is how you talk to people, how you treat them. And so that is a policy that we can easily track how many complaints we get with that. And thank goodness for body cameras, because the body camera captures the conversation. And when the body cameras first came out, there was trepidation, right, among officers no, human beings don't like change. And no one likes change. I thought they were wonderful. Within a couple of days, I kind of forgot that I was wearing it, and I didn't change my behavior. And then when I went over to internal affairs as a detective, it was just so helpful for us. First of all, if you violated our policy, you violated our policy. It is what it is. The policy is very clear about how you talk to people and how you treat people. And that's what I'm saying about treating people with humanity. That's been there. And so when we look at that and you violated our policy, yes, we're going to sustain you for that. Absolutely we are. But we're also going to educate you. And maybe it's one where you didn't violate, but you're heading that direction. We are going to address that. And so I think those are some of the ways that we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Next question is from Assemblyman Gray.
Good morning, Director and Detectives. Thank you guys for being here. Quick question followed by a quick statement regarding your Wellness Bureau. Your homicide solvability rate, does that directly correlate with convictions or just what you refer to the DA for prosecution? And then with your Wellness Bureau, I think going towards humanity and things, after spending 26 years in the military and looking at some of the incidents we've seen on TV with law enforcement, I think you guys are on the right track addressing that, because if you look at the officers that are involved in these, typically they're past the 10-year, they're moving up in years. I think there may be an underlying anger issue that may be related to PTSD that if you guys can address those, I know we've done a great job in the military of doing that, and I think you guys are on the right track. But only question I have for you is regarding the homicide rate. Thank you.
Yes, and I will admit I have one of our DAs sitting in the room, so I want to confirm with John Jones that I am right about that when we talk about our solvability rate, that is that we submitted the case. Yes, that we have submitted the case. And I'm sorry, the other comment you made, can you just repeat that quickly, Beth Schmidt, for the record?
Just your department, your wellness bureau that you guys have created, working with officers and...
What's very interesting is we were talking about this yesterday, Beth Schmidt, for the record, with my detectives, and we were talking about when we all started in policing, nobody talked about mental health. No one talked about it. And what we have found is that our officers, it is covered 100% to go and see a therapist. And everybody under your roof can go and see a therapist, whether they're your roommate or your girlfriend. And what we see is this change within policing that we are talking about, the cumulative trauma. And so does cumulative trauma play into this? I think we're going to see some very interesting academic studies as we move forward. Anecdotally, yeah, I think it how does it not affect people to see this day in and day out? But it doesn't excuse behavior.
Thank you for that acknowledgement, and I'd like to follow up on that question about officers and the ability to seek counseling and seek services. And yes, we understand that it's covered by their medical insurance, but traditionally, or anecdotally, however it should correctly be stated, just like in the military, oftentimes officers may be reluctant to seek those services covered through their medical insurance because of concerns of privacy and what will be reported, and does that prevent my raise or my promotion, and all of those issues. Because again, for privacy issues and working in the culture that they're in, I appreciate that. But of course, we all support the idea of our officers getting the support and help they need. So has that continued to be an issue? What is the department doing to support that?
Beth Schmidt, for the record, thank you for asking that. As I said, when I started, nobody talked about it. This is a second career for me. I spent 20 years as a journalist. I spent 20 years up close talking to people. I never had seen the things that I saw in that first year, and as it continued. And I can tell you this, that in my experience, our officers are not afraid to get help, because what happens is we've changed the culture over the years, and really during the time of Sheriff Lombardo, we really changed that culture, which was that it's okay to have that conversation with another cop and go, oh my God, I had nightmares last night of how it could have gone. Everybody wants to go home at night, but you wake up in the middle of the night. In my experience, it's 3 nights in a row after I experienced something that's really dangerous. And the culture shifted in the last decade, for sure. And that sense of worrying that the department is going to know what therapist I saw, I don't care. People don't care. I think the larger concern is we have police employee assistance programs. So it's a bureau that we have, and it's officers that fill those spots, or employees that fill those spots, and they're specially trained. They don't do the therapy, but what they do is they will connect our officers with the therapist. That is something that Sheriff McMail is very insistent on making sure that everyone understands that this is a confidential process. The department is not involved. And again, this is, we may know which therapist they're going to if they've been in a critical incident. They have to go to a therapist. But we also offer that therapy to a family, to wives and children, because we know the effect that this has on a family when an officer is involved in a critical incident. So I think we are trying to really message that out internally, but again, walk the walk, talk the talk. We have to earn the trust of our employees, but the intent is not. The intent is for our folks to retire after 20, 30 years and be mentally sound and have a good life after that. That is our intent. And you can't have that hanging over people's heads that you might be talking to the therapist.
Yes, Adrian Hunt for the record. I'm very happy and proud that the Wellness Bureau will be up. The last area command I worked at was Seminole Area Command. We lost a female officer to suicide, and I knew her personally, so it was very difficult. And I've also been in officer-involved shooting, so it's bringing it all together, sometimes it can get difficult. But what I did love about Sheriff McMahill, what he's trying to bring to this Wellness Bureau is a private entity, a third party. So there's something that we don't have to see, co-workers and constituents. So I think that's going to be great for us as well.
Thank you. We appreciate that response. Next question is from Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A little different. I wanted to ask if the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department has these portal drug screenings, these true narcs, and if you do, if you could tell me approximately how many and what they're being used for. Thank you.
Beth Schmidt for the record. To my knowledge, no, but I'm going to confirm that. There were some times where I remember several years ago, we did look at bringing in some sort of a mobile device like that to test drugs. We ended up not, that was a pilot study, we ended up not moving forward with that. At this point, our concern is we still continue with our regular process, and we do our most important thing is we do those in a controlled environment. So if someone is arrested with drugs and we're going to charge them, we will bring those drugs into a controlled room in the Clark County Detention Center. And then if we take the drugs and we're not arresting at that point, that controlled testing will go on at the area command. And to echo my colleagues from Washoe County, our concern with fentanyl is that exposure to our officers and them getting sick. So I will follow up on that, but to the best of my knowledge, we are still continuing to test as we have out in the field. Mm-hmm. And those are the preliminary tests.
We have a question from Assemblywoman Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. And so just to give you a little background, property manager, and a couple of years ago, I started managing multifamily and found out it's a totally different beast, and particularly in pocket areas. So let's see, Sahara and Maryland. I'm sure you're familiar with that area. Okay. And so it's surrounded by a bunch of buildings. We had 2 of them. And so over the last couple of years, we have been very consistent in working with Metro and doing gates around the buildings, fixing it up, having pride, working with you guys, wraparound services. But it took a lot of effort and work on us being there on a daily basis. And I know it's a huge resource drain because those areas, they tend to call the department, police department and the fire department for every little thing when it could be dealt with other agencies. So I'm wondering if you guys have taken a look at some best practices, because you can't do this alone. You need the help of landlords in the community, especially in those multifamily units, and taking a look at best practices so that those areas can be safe and a good place for everyone to live. Because when we took it over, we had gangs squatting in some of the units. They were harassing and abusing our veterans with a HUD bash, taking their Social Security. We had a attempted homicide. We had a suicide. The gamut. And now the place is doing 75 to 80% better, to the point where we get prayers every morning and thanks from the tenants. So just in terms of what we've seen with our success rate, have you looked at it, and is there a way or plan that we could possibly help other landlords have that same success?
Beth Schmidt for the record. Thank you so much. There's so much to unpack in there, so I'm probably going to miss some things. But what I want to say is I ran our community policing effort in the downtown area command, which is Fremont Street, and then all around to the east, the residential neighborhoods. I'm so happy to hear that, because what you're explaining is what's called our crime-free multi-housing unit program. And that takes the commitment. We can walk in and tell the property manager what that program is. But that property manager and their owners, they have to buy into it. It takes a lot of work on their part. So I'm very, very pleased to hear how that has worked out, because that is exactly what we're referring to when we say a vulnerable community. Because every single person deserves the right to rest their head and feel safe at night. Everyone deserves the right to have their child be able to go out and play. And we have had a lot of success with these programs, but it only works if we get the buy-in from not just the managers, but also from the community. So our Office of Community Engagement, we actually broke out into, we used to have just the crime prevention in each area command. We've actually now also have a more headquarters-based group as well, which is our Office of Community Engagement. They're constantly looking at best practices. They are constantly looking at partnerships with the community, and that's everything from faith leaders to caregivers to all the different aspects of the county. So yes, that is a tip of the spear for us, because we know that if we can improve the quality of life, reduce the vulnerability of a neighborhood, it will grow out, and then we will continue from there.
Our next question is from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for this presentation this morning. I have a hopefully simple request that doesn't require a lot of detail now, but I would just like if you could provide us with some information on demographics of who is applying and who is being hired within your organization.
Beth Schmidt, for the record. We absolutely will, and I did talk about recruiting. Recruiting is one of our big problems right now, one of our big challenges, I should say. So I absolutely will get you those numbers. It is foremost on our sheriff's mind, and not just our recruiters. In fact, we've been told everyone is a recruiter. And I know that Detective Reese will work overtime events at some of the events like at Allegiant Stadium. Our officers are going around every day at those events, and we're interacting with people, and we're trying to tell them what a great organization we are. And if they don't want to be a police officer, we say, oh, we got all these other things, and we talk to them about that. So we will provide that to you.
Thank you for your question, Assemblywoman. Assemblywoman Hanson has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. Regarding the solvability, which that statistic is very impressive, especially when you gave us a reference point for some of the other departments in the United States. What do you attribute that to? Why is there such a difference? What is it you're doing that is giving us that kind of return?
First and foremost, there's a culture in our investigative units, which is to care, to remember that this person who was murdered is a victim of a violent crime. They are someone's child. They are potentially someone's parent. They are someone's niece, nephew, grandparent. They never forget that in our homicide unit. And what we do, we have what's called our major case protocol. When we have a big case that we need to solve right away. Perfect example was the Las Vegas Review-Journal journalist. All hands on deck for that in a very, very coordinated process. So the commitment that everybody is expected to go all hands on to solve that crime, because that is someone's child. That is someone's child. And we remind ourselves that you talk about injecting more humanity. No one injects more humanity than those homicide detectives. And the hours that they work and when things happen, and they will go 72 hours straight because they want to solve that crime. And to have solvability rates in the 90 percentile is something we're incredibly proud of, those men and women.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hanson also has a records request for you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry. I didn't know whether to ask for a follow-up or just send a quick little message to the Chair. So with this solvability, if I could request, and maybe from our representative from the DA's office, Mr. Jones as well, when we talk about solvability and you're presenting to the DA these cases. I'm curious as to solvability versus conviction, and from conviction to maybe overturned. Because we might have solvability here, but then down the pipeline, how many of those cases ended up being convictions, or they were convictions, but then they were overturned? So if I could just get that offline at some point for myself and the other members. Thank you.
If you could submit that to the committee, please.
Yeah, Beth Schmidt for the record, I will. And do you have a year? Would you like to see a few years, or what would you like to see for that?
Maybe a couple years. I don't want it to be super intensive for you. I know you have a lot of very important things to do. So just to give us a general feel what that looks like from solvability to conviction, and then post-conviction, whether any overturned. Thanks.
I would say maybe 2017. I think because we always have a year or two in there with the pandemic that we're not sure how it has skewed things yet. So, but we know numbers are different for all human-related issues. So maybe a few years, that would probably be suffice. With that, not seeing any additional questions, I want to thank you for your presentation and for your candor. And thank you so much.
And on behalf of Sheriff McMahill, thank you very much for having us today.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to our final agenda item, which is public comment. Again, everyone will have up to 2 minutes to make a comment about something that's under the purview of committee. It's not to make any remarks on the bill presentation that we heard earlier. The number for anyone desiring to call in is 1-669-900-6833, and the meeting ID is 823-021-24802. And so with that, do we have anyone here in Carson City that would like to make a public comment? Please approach if you do. Not seeing anyone here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to make public comment? Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, do we have anyone on the line that would like to make public comment?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Callers, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIEGRANT. My brother Thomas Purdy was murdered by Reno Police and Washoe County Sheriff's Office 10/8/2015. My brother was one of 3 men asphyxiated to death by deputies at the jail. Nico Smith was asphyxiated less than a year before my brother, and Justin Thompson was asphyxiated less than a year after my brother. And I'd just like to mention that Deputy Corey Solferino was in charge that shift when Nico Smith was killed. Let's get to some real answers and data, like how many have died in their custody, how many pending lawsuits does the sheriff's office have against it, how many internal affairs complaints have been filed against deputies and their outcomes, how many of their what's the data for their early warning detection system for bad officers, how many fatal and non-fatal shootings have they been in, why aren't the deputies randomly drug tested or the officers? That would be some real accountability. Police basically can kill without consequence but are not randomly drug tested. Law enforcement doesn't forget homicide victims, just the ones that they have killed themselves. Where was the humanity shown to my 140-pound soaking wet, mentally ill, non-violent brother by Washoe County Sheriff's Office? Why for the past 5 years have they chosen to stifle my First Amendment constitutional rights by surrounding myself, son, and brother outside the jail with multiple armed deputies? Each and every year I have shown up there. This year, one kept his taser, his hand on his taser the entire encounter because apparently a 5-foot female armed with a bullhorn is a threat to them. They murdered my brother for no reason at all, so I don't pretend I'm not risking my life and limb every time I stand outside Park Boulevard. Police are still murdering community members in Nevada. They recognize the effects on the officers and their families. What about the victims killed by police and the trauma we live with every day? I hear my brother every single waking moment of my life begging for his. LVMPD and Washoe County Sheriff's Office need to stop ignoring their own bad acts. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's concerning to me that no elected official asked any of the questions above. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Grant. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Linda Deemer, and I'm calling to express concern for the well-being of inmates in the Washoe County Jail. Those held awaiting trial may be innocent citizens, and their rights, safety, and well-being are just as important as those in the community. I know an inmate who has been approved to represent himself in his trial, but he's not allowed access to his court records, nor to electronic communications. Apparently, the internet system is extremely unreliable and breaks down in the middle of providing a message which can't be saved. So communications are badly limited and access to records are very poor. And I happen to know that this particular inmate's only crime was protecting his own mother from inappropriate predatory guardianship. And I would like to ask that the Sheriff's Office consider the fact that he's been held since, he's been in limbo since 2019 when he was first arrested, and he's still awaiting trial. I'd appreciate investigation into his situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please.
Callers, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no other callers wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you, broadcast.
Chair?
Yes.
We have one caller just raised their hand. One moment.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning to the 82nd Assembly of Nevada. Thank you very much for taking my call. This is Matthew Scarlatus. On the heels of the last caller regarding conditions in the Washoe County Sheriff's Department and the gentleman that she spoke to, there are a number of concerns that several of us have raised about firsthand accounts of individuals, one in particular that went into cardiac arrest that this gentleman witnessed that took more than 10 minutes to receive CPR, and the circumstances of which we don't know whether he lived or died. Another gentleman with a broken foot that was not attended to, medications that are not being properly administered, food that is very, very highly questionable. And again, on the last caller regarding communications, the only means they have is the phone service, which breaks down consistently, and this tablet that allows them to text messages outside. They lose communication while they're attempting to distribute those messages. Quite frequently, many times they can't save them properly. And how is it possible in this century that we don't have, with the telecommunications wealth that we have and its power, that inmates don't have access to their court records, their court dockets, either through kiosk or through computer time that they can spend to communicate either with their counselors or on their own to defend themselves properly in court? Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Chair, there are no other callers at this time.
Thank you, broadcasting. And with that, thank you everyone for the presentations, and members, thank you for your engagement. We will begin tomorrow again at 8 a.m. And have a number of items on the agenda. With that, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. We are adjourned.